Kurt Cobain. Do you remember when you heard that he was gone?
Yeah, I do. It was like, I was with Mazzy Star and we were playing in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to show up to the show. And the other two members showed up. And I'm like, where's Kurt? And they're like, well, he's supposed to be here. And I guess the next day, I think we were driving down the coast, and that's when we heard the news. I think that's when. And we were just shocked. And it just felt like it was hard to believe, you know, what was going on. It just, everything felt dreamlike, you know. I get into when you're on tour, everything's moving and it's hard to hold things, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was, I guess I would consider it sad and weird and strange. And
yeah. And on a better note, how did you join Mazzy Star? I mean, what was the transition from being in Hole to joining Mazzy Star?
Oh, well, okay. Well, first of all, when I was on Hole, in Hole on tour, I think we were in Boston, and we would stay at people's houses because we didn't really have money yet. And then the woman, she was really cool. She made me a tape of Mazzy Star, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. It was their first record. I said, I just kept playing it in the van over and over and over. And so then after the breakup, after I left Hole, I put an ad out in I think it was a recycler, saying bass player, looking for band, let's see, Marianne Faithfull, Black Sabbath, and Mazzy Star influences. And then they called me, and I was just like, oh my God, are you serious? And they were laughing at the ad. They're like, Marianne Faithfull, but Black Sabbath? And I'm like, yeah, trust me, it works. So I went and tried out at their studio, and they were very, very opposite people, very quiet, like quiet, pin drop, you know. But then when she got to know them, the whole personalities blossomed, and they were cool. It was a lot of interesting times, and Hope was super nice, and so it was good. That was a good move for me. It felt really good musically.
Is it like watching the writing and participating in the recording of Among My Swan?
Oh, it was up in Berkeley, and it was good. I mean, I love recording, so that always is a good thing to me. I prefer it over live. I mean, live is good, but there's something about listening and honing in and layering and just going, oh my God, that's beautiful. So it was nice. I mean, and we got to know each other better. So we all kind of were learning from each other, and they pretty much let me do what I wanted to play on, you know, put my bass part, but their songs were definitely structured how they, you know, this is our song. So I'm like, okay, got it, you know, and just, it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed that music. So
nice. And then of course you went on tour, and what was that like? Basically touring with a band that was signed to a major label, as opposed to having been in more of an independent atmosphere prior to that.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I noticed, one thing though for sure, is I liked being in a band that liked to work like faster, and they worked very methodically and slow. Mazzy Star was too slow for me. I was like, my God, come on, let's work. But they were just slow. But when you talk about the money difference, I didn't get to know their money, but I did get to know that I got my own room. And that was like, at first it was me and Suki together. And then after that, I think Suki, I don't know if she left. I'm not sure what happened, but I ended up getting my own room. And then there were times where Hope knew I didn't like going on that boat thing, because I don't want to be in that body of water. And so she's like, yeah, let's fly. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that never would have happened in any of the bands in the past. It was like, you were lucky to get like a sandwich or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how long did you stay with Mazzy Star?
I stayed with them for their first tour, then the Among My Swan record, and then a tour after that. Mm-hmm. And then it felt like they were breaking up, but I wasn't sure. And Hope said, well, one night I was driving her home because she stayed in LA at a hotel sometimes. Mm-hmm. And we talked about doing a project on the side. And that was Hope Sandoval and the One Inventions. And that's what I started working on next. But again, the process was so slow. We would go to England for a month and try out musicians. We would do it in Berkeley for a month, in LA. And it was really, the process was crazy. And we did some recording, but it was just, again, too slow. I'm like, we got, So that's kind of what happened after as Mazzy Star. But then they eventually got back together. So,
okay. Was there a project you were with during those years that best encapsulated what you wanted to do as a musician, what your skill set was, and what your point of view was?
Oh boy, I gotta say, it kind of, a lot of them had all different elements of relationships, and each one, no matter how devastating it sounds, I took away something good from. So it wasn't all bad. There was some good stuff coming out of it, and I learned, I grew as a person, and I'm still growing. And so each one had their reasoning behind it, But also there was another band that I was forming. We were called Tear Drain, and we put out 2 singles, I think. And that's while I was in Mazzy Star, I was doing that as well. And they were sweet enough to come to one of our shows. We had a show in LA, just a small show. Mm-hmm. And it was great because it was me and Richard. We were working on songs together, and we got along really well. But, and then you just, yeah. So, and I loved Mazzy Star, but I would like to have been a part of the writing process, maybe. But that's now mostly everyone's dead, kind of. It's sad, but it happens. We're all,
Yeah, unfortunately. And that's kind of one thing that struck me when you were speaking about that, because you seem like such a writer and a collaborator. And, it was Mazzy Star was a band where those 2 people wrote pretty much all of their content.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always had a band on the side. It was like, okay, I'm not going to get my outlet here, but I'm enjoying this and I love it, but I'm going to also do a band where I can create. And so I always did that. And then even after playing with Hope, I went on to do a couple other bands where I was, co-writer in both of them. And I was hoping for things to turn out, and they didn't. I mean,